speaking of Sir Adam Hoge at Halas Hall, as he is joining us now on the CHGO Bears Podcast. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. Got some special shout-outs at the end of the show for some people who have supported us. Sir Hoge, good to see you, my friend. Why don't we start with the injury updates as we slink our way through to the final 4 games of the year. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah, some interesting names on here that we got to talk about, even, as much as the games matter or don't matter. One name, Javon Dexter, who left that game. I think he came back, and then he did not practice. Also important, guys, today's only a walkthrough. We'll talk more about that in a second. So today, I know it's Thursday on everybody's calendar. It's technically a football Wednesday, back to work Wednesday because the Bears don't play till Monday. So they were just doing a walkthrough today. So these are all kind of estimations. I did see Javon Dexter just walking down the hall here a few minutes ago and said hi, and he didn't really seem to be limping that bad. So maybe that's some, hope that at least, he's not like, he was walking better than Greg walks with his knees. So that's a good sign. That's kind of my barometer these days with these knee injuries. DeAndre Swift, though, groin injury. Now, last week, Nick, help me out with this because I don't have it in front of me. I think it was a quad last week, right? For DeAndre Swift. I'm pretty sure that both DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift were questionable with quads. Yeah. This is a groin now, so it's a new injury. He did not practice. So that's something to watch going forward if he's now dealing with multiple things at the running back position. Otherwise, Ryan Bates and Jaylon Johnson still out with these concussions. Bears did make a transaction yesterday on the practice squad, though, with the running back, so I don't know if that's a sign that maybe Roschon will come back or not. And then Josh Blackwell's dealing with a shoulder, one of your key special teamers.
Which is interesting because who is going to return punts if Blackwell can't do it and DeAndre Carter out? Maybe my guy Tyler Scott finally gets his opportunity to show everybody that he is the Tyler Scott that Carm believes in.
Man, imagine if
if
you had an opportunity at the end of the game where Tyson Bagent and Tyler Scott are just like, for you, Carm, that's like your Super Bowl.
Well,
that's where we're at this point in the season. Tyler Scott to Tyson Bagent.
It was kind of funny since you brought that up that Tyler Scott never got the ball when Justin was here, and then all of a sudden he got hurt, and then Bagent was in there, and then Tyler Scott started catching balls. I don't know how that happened. No biggie. All right, let's get to Caleb. We got to watch like the first 10 minutes of Caleb or 7 minutes of Caleb, and it was kind of painful. Hey, ever been through a losing streak like this before? No, haven't. And then he started talking about Ryan Poles. So why don't you pick it up from there, Adam?
Yeah, well, one last thing on the injuries, just real quick, is I found this interesting, but the Bears and Thomas Brown has decided that Wednesdays going forward, they're all going to be walkthroughs the rest of the season. Now, that might sound a little odd, but the Bears do play 3 of their last 4 games in an 11-day stretch coming up here starting Monday night. So it's going to go really fast. They're not going to be normal practice weeks anyway. Obvious excuse to rest some of these legs when you're playing 3 NFL football games in 11 days. And then so that pretty much only leaves the last full week of practice before that the season finale against the Packers. So just a little bit of a nugget on there before we move to Caleb. When it comes to Caleb, it's let's talk about Poles first because I want to talk about this dynamic of losing a lot with Jaylon Johnson too. It's sort of the juxtaposition those two players are in. But when it comes to Ryan Poles, I thought it was an interesting line of questioning. Just we've spent a lot of time this week talking about Ryan Poles, right? And his level of power in this coaching search and going forward and how that might change depending on who the candidates might be. But pretty much a full endorsement from Caleb Williams. And I didn't view it as just like, he's got to answer the question and, of course, endorse his GM. But really kind of went a little bit deeper into, I know you guys only get a glimpse of Ryan Poles. You can see him a little bit in Hard Knocks, this, that. But it's like, no, from a people perspective, their relationship has grown. He cares about the people in the building, the winning especially. And that's why he said, that's why my faith is in Ryan Poles. So it was a stronger endorsement than just your I have to answer this question type of response. At least that's how I viewed it. Does that necessarily matter? No. I mean, teams change coaches and general managers all the time. But I think there always is a bond between any player who gets drafted or signed into the NFL and the person that, was the person who drafted or signed that player. So there shouldn't be an unexpected bond there. So at least Ryan Poles has Caleb Williams' endorsement, which could matter because sometimes relationships fray and this and that. But at least you could check that box today.
I mean, that's good that they still have a strong relationship after this first rookie season, because also I think we also heard that Caleb isn't used to this type of losing. Can you tell us more about that, Adam?
Yeah, and like one thing you could say is this rookie season in some ways has been what everybody feared, and what we spent time talking about before the Bears drafted him, when there were sort of those what turned out to be nonsense rumors that, hey, maybe Caleb Williams would force himself onto a different team it was nonsense in the fact that I don't think it was ever seriously considered, but it wasn't nonsense in the fact that it's happened before in the past in NFL history. And now you look at it here in December, and it wouldn't be hard to argue that had he tried to go down that road, it would have been justified. But here he is, and with everything that's gone wrong, I would blame Caleb Williams if he held it against Ryan Poles a little bit that Shane Waldron was his first offensive coordinator. Even if that was ultimately Matt Eberflus's hire, Poles was here. He was involved in the interviews. He was, kind of the caretaker of what this situation was going to look like for Caleb Williams to walk in. What Caleb referenced, I thought a bunch in there, though, was like, yeah, but Ryan Poles also got me Rome Odunze and Keenan Allen to go along with DJ Moore. So there's plenty of good here, too, that Ryan Poles did to put him in a situation. And I think it's just a matter of trying to, handle this losing, which he's never really been through. I mean, as bad as last year's USC season was, they didn't go through a 7-game losing streak. It's been but a little over 2 calendar months now since they've won a football game. That's a long time to go without winning. When we know winning is the drug that pretty much everyone in the NFL needs to not only keep their jobs, but to also just, have fun along the way. And it's really just what matters and cures everything. So that's tough right now. It's a really tough situation that Caleb Williams is in. No doubt about it. And then you talk about the opposite side of this. I thought some of these comments from Jaylon Johnson were interesting. We're going to play some of this for you because here's Jaylon. Jaylon's been here for 5 years of losing. He's coming at it from more of the veteran perspective. And this starts with just him, talking about is it hard to still fight when there's not much left to play for?
No, it's not hard at all. I mean, when you step between those lines, you're trying to whip the man in front of you. So, I mean, that's all. That's still what the game is about. It's simplified, playoff hopes and all that, but you still play for your name. Your resume is still out there. So, I mean, you can tank all you want, and that film is going to be out there forever. So, I mean, I know when I step out there, there's always something to prove.
Do you feel like
you're circumstances?
When you talk about the gratitude and perspective you have, is that something that you found different this year? Because you've also talked about that there's been a consistent theme throughout your career with the Bears. Is that new?
New, yes and no. I mean, I feel like early on, it's one of those things where everybody around you kind of funnels you in a certain way, I would say mentally, but I feel like now, I mean, being my own man, own player at this point, 5 years into it, going through it, I mean, you start building kind of tough skin with it. So just looking for another perspective, because I mean, it's hard to just go year after year, and if I allow myself to be depressed over wins and losses, I'm going to be in a very dark place. So I know my family can't afford for me to do that, so at the end of the day, I just do what I can, watch my film, do my extra work, prepare the right way, play the game hard, try to do my part best way I can, lead the guys, and if we come out on top, we do. If we don't, just thank God for the opportunity.
Jaylon, when you say there's a lot to play for here,
100%.
How much does it matter that 3 of these last 4 games are against your division?
It matters because we got 3 good opportunities to play against some really good teams. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we lost all those games. So, I mean, there's another opportunity at least even the score. I mean, it'll do more to them than it would for us, of course. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we still individually as a team, as a unit, like I said, everybody's trying to prove themselves right now. Coaching, players, everything like that. So, I mean,
By the way, some Some good advice in there, I think, for maybe Greg to listen to too. About handling all these losses. In all seriousness, though, part of the reason why I asked that last question is because in terms of what's left to play for, this is starting to not just become a thing against the Packers. But if you look at now I know the Bears got a win against the Lions and Vikings last year, but if you zoom out, like kind of more of the Cole Kmet, Jaylon Johnson 5-year period here, I mean, the results against the division are horrible across the board. So like this is starting to become, it's obviously already a thing against the Packers, 11 straight losses, but now it's a thing against your whole division. And to me, regardless of who's coaching this team next year, which is probably your best way to hit the reset button on some of that stuff, I don't know that this roster turnover is going to be as drastic as maybe we've had in when there's more recent changes, right? Like certainly when Ryan Poles took over. So this idea that some of these guys can't beat the Lions and the Vikings and the Packers, like that's still something you can start to take care of, to me, in these last 4 games, if you can find a way to win some of these games. So let's not forget about that these are opportunities to knock off your division rivals here in these last 4 games.
Really quickly, Adam, I wrote a story not too long ago after the Vikings lost, but since Kmet and Jaylon Johnson joined the Bears, they are 28-52. So when you speak of like all the losing they've done, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Well, and look, 2020, Jaylon's rookie year, let's not forget, the Bears went to the playoffs. And that was the game that Jimmy Graham caught the 1 touchdown pass and walked out of the stadium in one of the great moments in Bears history. And Jaylon also had a shoulder injury at the end of his rookie year. He was inactive, so he didn't play in the game. And then from there, they've gone 6-11, 3-14, 7-10, and 4, and whatever it's going to be. But
even in that year, Carm, they lost 6 straight games in that season.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent point. So it is just at some point, and give him credit. I mean, he's I'll give Jaylon props for the pride and the way he conducts himself, and still believing that hey, I am a winner. Period. Despite playing on the Bears for his entire NFL career on teams that weren't built to win.
Yeah, so Adam, before we let you jet and get back to whatever you're doing out there at Halas Hall, Seth Wickersham. I didn't mean it like that.
Whatever you're doing out there, Adam.
Whatever the
I'll
hell
tell you,
you're doing.
you know what? I will tease what I'm doing here in Halas Hall
Whatever the hell
actually
you're
before I
doing.
get out of here.
I didn't mean it like that, but go ahead, tell us.
You know what I'm doing here? I'm not sitting in traffic on the Kennedy. Open those freaking express lanes. They look like they're close. They put new signs up. I was getting kind of hopeful yesterday, so maybe by next week, Carm, I don't know.
No, listen, I had to come down late today because of some poppy to puppy issues, and it was there was cars going down the express lanes back and forth, but it ain't open.
No one knows what they're doing, but
they just drive.
They
back
keep
and
driving
forth.
north and south on those lanes, just taunting us every single day. That's what they do.
It looked really nice.
I want to see that guy.
Smooth. Yep, we'll get there. Don't worry. I believe in you, IDOT.
Easy drive to Northwest Indiana every day for me, so.
Oh, yeah. I never hear about you and your 2-hour commute.
Maybe we should have the Bears move there.
Maybe we should. Maybe they will.
No.
All right. What were you going to say, Greg?
Adam's gonna
Hoge's
tease-
gonna
Adam's gonna
tease us
tease.
up on
Yeah.
whatever the hell he's doing.
I could tell he didn't really have a question, so I just thought I'd jump in.
No, I do have a question, but let's hear what you have to do.
So I was working with Pat, our guy Pat Norton, already on this. Okay, now I'm losing track of how many coaching searches is for me. I think it's 5. So I've seen the Bears make mistakes, right? I've seen this over and over again, and I've been working on this all week, kind of behind the scenes. My guidelines for the Bears hiring their next head coach. And what I've come up with are 10 categories, 5 of which matter twice as much as the other 5. So you got like your 5 things that really matter, and then you got 5 other things that need to be calculated in it too. And so I'm gonna put these all together. We're gonna put them out, and then what that's gonna allow us to do is kind of, once we have those guidelines in check, then we can start to look at, okay, how does Ben Johnson fit this compared to how does Mike Vrabel fit this, and so on and so forth. And I think, and a lot of these are based on, it's kind of a combination of mistakes the Bears have made. This job specifically, because I do think the Bears job is different than the New Orleans Saints job, right? It's an entirely different media market, for example. Like that, somewhere in there, that matters. But also the game has changed a lot too. So you got to be how aggressive is a coach, right? Like that matters to me. And then obviously, the more obvious ones are like, okay, is this guy an offensive coach or is this a defensive coach? So that's just sort of a tease. There's 10 overall. And I think it's going to give us a lot of fodder on the show too, as we kind of break these guys down over the next few weeks. But I'm hoping to maybe have these 10 guidelines out, the full guidelines with the 10 categories out by tomorrow.
Well, hopefully there's a cool acronym too.
Yeah.
Maybe Patrick. Patrick will do that.
I think I know the name of what this should be, because with Belichick he had the Bible, right? So this should be called the Hoge Bible. The Hoge Bible. You like it?
Yeah.
No.
You don't like it. Hoge likes it.
That was terrible.
By the way, Nick, just barely missing out on the list was no acronyms. Does a coach have an acronym that's an automatic? No, that did not make the categories, but you could argue it should be on there.
We look forward to reading the Hoge Bible. And here's the question that I wanted to ask you that I had no idea how to exactly frame, but the story coming out from Seth Wickersham, saying Bill Belichick is the most viewed it, him and his group viewed it as the most attractive job. And then also adding into that report that they believe that the Bears are going to go after Ben Johnson. So just your reaction to that very detailed article by Wickersham and some of the details within it.
Yeah. Great piece, obviously. And Seth's, just one of the, right up there with the best guys that has covered Bill Belichick's career and been around this stuff. So the fact he had such detail on some of these Zoom calls that he'd been doing every single week with Josh McDaniels and Lombardi and Matt Patricia, whatever you think about those guys, right? They all have great connections around the league. They all kind of know what's going on. So I think the headlines in there, in whatever order you want to put them, was one, the Bears weren't going to be interested in Belichick. I think we're starting to realize the entire NFL was like that. I still think it's a missed opportunity to talk to him, and with intention too. But whatever. You chose not to do that. Now we get to talk about it for the rest of eternity. And yeah, the idea that they expect the Bears to go offense with Caleb. I mean, it's obviously not like a groundbreaking assumption, but I think it matters who it's coming from, right? So those are four well-connected guys in the NFL, one of whom is Bill Belichick. And I think that does matter. And, so we'll see where it goes, but I do I think I've said this before. I'd be shocked if Vrabel's not one of the finalists, and I'd also be shocked if Ben Johnson isn't one of the finalists either.
Yeah, it's hard, right? I mean, we're just so early in this process. The Hoge Bible hasn't even been released yet, but we're trying to figure out what direction, whether this is going to be the experienced head coach or this offensive play caller that might be in his first time. So I like, we all want the answer now. Luckily, we won't have to wait as long as we did to figure out the answer at the quarterback decision that took months last year, where I might have jumped off the building if it had taken another week.
Well, actually, on that point, though, time could be working against the Bears here. I'm thinking about this Ben Johnson and the Lions. If they could make a deep playoff run, Hoge, I'll ask you this. Is there a chance that the Bears wait too long, hope for Ben Johnson, and then it comes to a point where either Ben Johnson doesn't want to sign with the Bears or the Bears don't want Ben Johnson and they miss out on all the other candidates?
Yeah, so to tease, one of the most important categories I have in the Hoge Bible, which unlike Belichick, I will release to the public, is the ability to hire a staff and the networking involved in having a staff, and the timing of that all does matter. So to be honest with you, that is probably one of the categories that Ben Johnson won't score very highly on, because I think there's a couple things that work against him. One of the obvious ones is that he would be taking a job within his own division. So the ability to bring coaches with him, I would assume would be relatively limited. And then now he does have a network from working in Miami for a long time. So I don't, it's not like he's only worked with Andy Reid like Matt Nagy did. But I don't know that that's necessarily one of the strong suits that he's going to have. And then you also have the element of time, because, if you follow some of these head coaching hires that have happened with super teams that go to the Super Bowl, there's a lot of back channel stuff going on there in terms of who's lined up to follow that coach, because it has to be. And you get in the issue that the Eagles had a couple of years ago where they basically tampered with Vic Fangio, and Fangio couldn't take that job. And so he had to go to Miami for a year before he ended up back in Philly. So it's a tricky thing that I do think is one of the negatives of hiring a coach that could potentially be playing all the way, into the second week in February. Now, that being said, there's also examples of it working. I mean, obviously Kyle Shanahan was in that situation, and Zach Taylor was in that situation. These guys still find ways to build their staffs, but certainly jumping on this early and building out your staff helps. That being said, I believe the Bears were the first to make their head coaching hire a couple of years ago with Matt Eberflus, and look how that staff worked out. So, and if he wasn't first, he was second. He was right up there early on in the process, and that obviously did not help the Bears.
Well, if you want to dream up the Lions losing early, the Bears do get them a week from Sunday, so that's a big game because they are 12-1, one game ahead of the Eagles. We got to dole out some losses, dial it up early, let them lose.
Don't get home field advantage. Yeah,
that's what needs to happen. Hoge, anything on your way out, or anything from Thomas Brown stand out to you today? We haven't touched on the head coach.
Yeah, we can talk just real quick. I want you to retract that last statement, though, because if Ben Johnson's becoming the next head coach of the Bears, we need him and the Lions at the Super Bowl. Okay, so please take that back, because we will be there for a week.
That's true. Yep, never mind.
What I laid out was a win-win. We can be at the Super Bowl. Ben could be walking around. We'll still talk to him there, but he'll already be the Bears head coach. It'll be perfect.
I don't think that's what you laid out. But
that's exactly
Thomas Brown.
Yeah.
Thomas Brown. Yeah. I didn't really have any major takeaways today from Thomas. He's in a tough spot. I think that, like I mentioned earlier, the decision he made with these walkthroughs is interesting, but not the end of the world. I like how matter of fact he is at times. He gets asked about Justin Jefferson, and he's like, yeah, he's a problem. I'm not going to say he's not a problem. He is a problem. So I think there's a lot of qualities that are still appreciated here with Thomas. And let's not forget the Bears played these three divisional teams down to the last time they played them. So it's not out of the picture that these could still be games that the Bears are in the fourth quarter. It seems to be trending the opposite direction, but it would be completely shocking. And then we'll be able to get a much better evaluation of Thomas Brown as a potential head coaching candidate, compared to obviously what we got to see in San Francisco last week, which was not much.
We're gonna play a drop of Thomas Brown, one soundbite from Thomas Brown coming up. But Hoge, get on out here as we get to the top of the hour. We want to remind everybody that first of all, hit the like button for Adam Hoge, because you love Adam Hoge, and without Adam Hoge, there would be no Bears football. Damn it.
We all silly like the mayor.